As I begin this morning, I want to share with you a children's story. I'm going to share it in my own words, but it's a story written by Max Lucado, and it's called The Children of the King. The story could have happened in a neighborhood, a village, maybe not a whole lot different than our own, and maybe even in a time that's not so different than the time in which we live. But in this village, there were 5 orphans. And these orphans, both their mother and father had died, and they wanted to stay together as a family. And so they worked very hard to stay together. And word got to the king that there were these 5 orphans who had no parents. And the king sent a message to the village saying that he was going to adopt the children. The king was going to become their father. Well, there was much excitement. The kids were so excited about the fact that the king was going to be their father. The villagers were excited that the king was going to be coming to their village. They had always heard a lot about the king, but no one had ever seen the king in person. And so in order to make their village ready, they needed to clean the streets. They needed to tidy things up. And, well, they also wanted to prepare the children so they were ready to meet their new father, ready to meet the king. And so they said to the children, you need to have a gift. You need to have something that you can offer to the king as he takes you into his home. And so the children had to figure out what it was that they had to offer the king. And one of the boys was a wood carver. And so he took his knife and a block of wood and he tried to create a wood carving that was worthy to give as a gift to the king. You know, people could see the gift that he had because it was almost as he did his wood carving that he could carve a bird that looked almost real, just like it could fly. You know, one of the girls, she had a talent of being able to paint. And with her brush, she could paint beautiful pictures. And she decided that she was going to paint a picture of the landscape of the countryside, would be a picture that would be beautiful enough for the king to hang in his castle and to be admired. One of the other sisters was a musician. And so she practiced her singing and playing of instruments in order that she might be able to share her gift of music with the king. The other brother was one who decided that he would impress the king with his wisdom and his knowledge of geography and mathematics and the sciences. But the youngest of the children was a little girl. And the little girl had no talent. She had no gift that she could offer. It seemed that she wasn't very skilled with a knife, not very skilled with a brush. And when she tried to sing, her voice was hoarse and she was kind of dull. She wasn't even able to read. But she spent the day at the city gate and she would greet those who were coming to town. She would greet them and ask them how their day was, how their journey was, what had they been learning, what had they been seeing, and offering to care for their animals, their horses and donkeys and mules. She would water them and feed them and brush them. Well, the little girl was becoming very, very concerned because she had nothing to offer to the king. So she thought maybe one of her brothers or sisters could help her to create something for the king. So she went to the woods craftsman and he said, I don't have time to teach you how to carve. I'm too busy working on my masterpiece. And the one who was painting the landscape, she too said, I don't have time to teach you how to paint. I've got to use my gifts to make my own creation for the king. She went to visit her sister that was the musician, and she enjoyed the practice and with all the people gathered around listening to her sisters sing and applauding and giving her their adoration. Her sister didn't even notice that she was there, and so she went on to her brother who was the scholar. He never lifted his eyes from the page, but he said, I don't have time to teach you how to read. Go someplace else and leave me alone. So the young girl went back to the city gate, and there she stayed, doing her thing day after day. And several days had passed, maybe even weeks, and there was a man who came to town dressed as a merchant. He looked like a very dignified merchant. He had a beard. He had a pleasant smile. He seemed to be very kind. And as he came to the city gate, the little girl said to him, "Could I take care of your mule? Could I give him something to drink? And could I brush him for you?" And the merchant said, "Yes, please do. I would appreciate that." And as the girl began to talk with the merchant, she said, "You look very tired. Over there's a bench. Would you like to lie down and take a rest?" And he said, "Yes, I would. Thank you." And so he went over and to take a rest. And after resting for some time, he opened his eyes, and seated at his feet was the little girl. The little girl who was staring at him, and as he opened his eyes and met her eyes, she turned away, rather embarrassed that she had been caught. And he said, "How long have you been sitting there?" And she said, "Oh, several minutes." He said, "Well, why are you sitting there and staring at me?" And she said, "As I look at you, you look so peaceful. And there's just something calming about me sitting here looking at you." And he said, "Well, I need to go find some people in town. Would you please care for my mule while I'm gone?" And she agreed to do so. And the man left, and actually returned quicker than he anticipated. And the little girl said, "Did you find the people for whom you were looking?" And he said, "Well, I went to the wood carver. But the wood carver said that he was too busy finishing a project and asked if I could come back tomorrow. I went to see a painter, but she was up on the hillside, and the people told me that I shouldn't go up the hill and bother her because she was too busy finishing her creation. I went and saw the singer and enjoyed her beautiful music, but she was too overtaken by her adoring fans, and we didn't have time to talk. And then there was a scholar that I was looking for, but it seems that he's gone to the city to study, and so he's not even here in the village." And with that, the young girl's mouth dropped, and she said, "You mean you're the king?" And he said, "Yes, I'm the king." And she said, "But you don't look much like a king." And he said, "Well, I may not look much like a king, but he said, when I look too much like a king, people treat me in strange ways. People come to me with all their requests. People have all these expectations of what I should be like and how they should act in my presence." And he said, "I just enjoy talking to people." She said, "Well, why is it that you decided to adopt us as your children?" And the king said, "I like children because they're innocent, because they're willing to talk. They don't put up the shields. They don't put up the walls of false pretense." He said, "Children are willing to talk to me and be who they truly are." Well, as the king had tried to find all 5 orphans, 4 of them didn't have time for him, but the one who had no talent, or thought she had nothing to offer, was really the only one who had the opportunity to connect with the king. And so it happened that the children with many talents but no time missed the visit of the king, while the girl whose only gift was her time got to go to the king's castle and became his child.